Good morning. How are we all today? So, I want to turn business planning on its head slightly. So, what do I mean by that? Well, there are a number of aspects of business planning which often business owners don't even contemplate. Now, I've talked previously about key strategies that you definitely need to do, which, to be perfectly honest, some business owners don't even do the basics. So let's go back over the basics just initially. So things like doing a SWOT analysis. So what are the strengths of your business? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? It's looking at setting goals within your business. It's looking at recruitment strategy. It's looking at financial budgeting. Just a few of the basic bits. Setting out what your services are, what your pricing is. All of these things incorporate the basics of business planning. But I want to talk about a few things that are a little bit more off the wall. So I've got 5 key things that I just want to get your thoughts percolating in terms of, have you thought about any of these things when it comes to your business planning? So the first thing is about emotional resilience, because when you are making key business decisions, often there is an emotional component. We may not want to admit that there's an emotional component, but in reality, we all make business decisions not just on logic, but based on emotion. So, for example, when you are recruiting a potential new member of staff, now, there could be a logical where their CV looks good. It could be the fact that they've got all of the skill set that you require, but something doesn't quite feel right about that candidate. Now, that's where your emotions are obviously going to have an impact, because you've got a sense of feeling. It's your gut feeling that's saying, hang on a second, this person isn't actually right for the role. So emotions do come into play. And I think, again, you could look at the recruitment example of often, and this is one of the key mistakes that I often see businesses make, is they are so desperate to get somebody on board that they take on the wrong person because they just want somebody filling that seat. Now, my advice is however much you may need that additional support, it's more important to find the right person and wait a bit longer than to put the wrong person in place, because it always costs you more in the long run, whether it's in your time, whether it's in relation to training, whether it's in relation to financial or resources. Ultimately, if they're not the right fit, they're not the right fit. And I always would say, when you're recruiting, and this is a bit of a hot tip here, is if your gut is saying you're not sure about the candidate, then it's a no. Unless you are 100% certain, do not recruit that person. So then let's move on to number 2, right? What about talking gamification? What do I mean by gamification? This is where you include rewards, you could include challenges, competition. Now, gamification can be applied in all aspects of your business, whether it comes to your lead generation, where you are doing competitions, which is then getting people's attention, whether it's a case of doing something for your staff in terms of, gamifying set targets, for example, and having rewards. So if a particular target is met, then there is a reward, whether it's a team day out or a particular individual gets some kind of gift card or whatever you think. You can gamify. And these are all things that you could be thinking about in terms of planning. Now, the third one is something that I talk about on a frequent basis. So to me, this is not unusual. To me, this should be a standard, and that is reverse planning. And that is starting with the end in mind and reverse engineering. Now, anybody who works with me knows when it comes to goal setting, I actively encourage reverse engineering, where you start with the goal and you work backwards in terms of how you're actually going to achieve it. So that is looking at things like your average transaction value and working out, okay, how many of those transactions do you need to hit that target? And then from that, how many leads do you need to be able to get that many sales? And I'm always talking about this. So to me, this is not unusual. However, to many of you, it might be. Then number 4, this is when we're talking about sustainable business planning. So now I think this could be looked at in 2 different ways. You've got the environmental component in the sense of, okay, is there machinery that can be repurposed, recycled? Do you have a sustainable environmental policy? Do you do things where you are effectively helping in terms of the environment? So trying to reduce global warming. Do you have anything that's involved around the sustainable environment side of things? Now, but I also think that there is an element in this where it's also about sustaining and repurposing other things, not just in terms of physical things that affect the environment, but also repurposing things that actually help in terms of improving your own resources and your time. So it could be repurposing even marketing content. So is there content that you've created, articles that you've created that you could actually start to split through into social media posts or part of your long-term warming up sequence, and you're repurposing that content? And also, is there some content that you can literally recycle where you put it back out again on your social media cycle? Now, I know that when I work with my business coach, he effectively has a 13-week cycle. And in that every 13 weeks, that same content then goes back out again. And he's creating reels, a reel for every single day of the business week. And then he's repurposing it, and he is literally recycling the content. So I think there are 2 particular angles in terms of on the sustainable environment side. Then the final one is about storytelling. Now, I personally think storytelling is something that should be a really important part of your business regardless, because I genuinely believe storytelling is what helps sell. The amount of times where I've shared a particular story with you guys, and then hopefully that resonates with you, that's when you are emotionally connecting. So again, for me, the storytelling isn't something that's unusual, but I think a lot of businesses are completely oblivious to this particular technique. So this is about creating, for example, a narrative around your customer journey in terms of how you take your customers from beginning to end, and you're then even giving examples of stories of where you've helped other customers, so they can see how you actually work. You've also got in terms of things like your values and your mission, in terms of what is your story? What has actually led you to running this business? Now, you will often hear me talking about the fact that I had run a law firm for 7 years, and I realized when doing that it was the business that I loved, and I went through every single challenge you can possibly imagine within that business. And it taught me a heck of a lot, which is why I then want to impart that knowledge and inspire and motivate and guide you guys so that your business can be as successful as it possibly can be. And I'm using my story to be able to emotionally connect with you guys, to say, okay, I understand the challenges you're going through. I've been there. I know how it feels. I still go through challenges now. Any business coach who turns around and says that everything is perfect in their world, I'm sorry, I would never ever use them, because life is not like that. We all are faced with challenges, whether it's in our business, personally, or sometimes it can be a combination of both. But using those stories and actually emotionally connecting and resonating with your customers, is a really important part. So how does that then tie in with your business planning? Well, you can actually then start to plan out, okay, what particular stories could you use when you're talking about your values? What stories can you use when you're talking about your mission? And what stories can actually tie your business planning in together? So there are 5 areas in which on your business planning side that you could completely and utterly look in a different direction, turn that business planning on its head. Now, remember, guys, still do the basics. Now, my advice to you is get the basics right first and then do the more complex side of things where you can turn things on its head. The only exception to that rule, in my view, is the reverse engineering, because the reverse engineering, I think, should be within the basics and is not something that's unusual. So I hope you have got some real value from what I have shared with you today. Now, the next thing that I need to get you guys to do, and I would first of all would like to know your feedback in terms of the thoughts you've got around what I've shared with you. Are any of these things that you are already thinking about, or are you going to now implement? Now, the next thing is, if you want to hear some more guidance in terms of business planning and to really help get the tools and strategies into your business so your business can go from an underperforming business to a peak performing business, then what you need to do is get yourself booked in to the Business Fixer Summit. It's on the 13th of September, so we are literally talking 2 weeks away. I'm really excited. We've got a number of different speakers who'll be speaking on, excuse me, excuse me, sorry about that. Joys of hay fever. So yes, we've got a number of different speakers talking on key areas of your business. So I'm talking about the business planning side. I'm also talking about mindset. We have got Zoe, who is talking about your numbers, and she's definitely not your traditional accountant, which is why I love her. You've got Elena, who is talking about how you can get more leads, how you can get your phone ringing and more inquiries coming through, which is fundamental to a business. And then you have got Anthony, who is the telephone assassin, who is literally the expert when it comes to sales and removing the pipeline constipation. So I will put the link in the comments. So make sure you get yourself booked into the Business Fixer Summit. It's a virtual event. It's completely free. So what have you got to lose? So I will see you all guys very soon. Thank you very much for listening. And make sure you get yourself booked in. Speak soon.